am so tired of us feeling insecure, inadequate, dissatisfied with who we are and how we look. And I hope that with this video, if you are insecure in any way or, are struggling with some body image issues, that this will help you, because I know that I needed to hear these things when I was younger. I want to start by saying that this is not your fault. We live in this society where people profit off of your insecurities. So there are certain corporations and forces out there who are trying to make us feel insecure every day to add more money to their pockets. I've fallen victim to these forces, especially taking a hit on my health when I was younger, and I still get influenced by these forces trying to make me feel insecure every single day. So I'm sharing some of the things that really helped me become more confident and just embrace who I am, which makes me live a much happier and healthy life. And at the end of the day, we want those two things, happiness and health. So, for those who don't know me, hi, I'm Amy. This is my podcast channel. If you go into the little bar under this video, you can see that this can be downloaded just like a podcast. It's in the podcast playlist. My main channel is Amy Wang, where I talk about tips for how to improve in school and succeed while gaining skills that help you in life as well. Whenever I go and consume any form of content, honestly, it's rampant on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, there will be images and ads of beautiful, beautiful women. And no matter how confident I am, I still have this subconscious sense that, man, I don't look like that. Like, I don't have a waist as small as that. Their face is snatched, they have big eyes. And I don't want to generalize to say that it's only women who feel insecure. If you're a male, I know that you have your own sets of struggles as well. As evident with my fiance, all genders really struggle with this. What was crazy is that recently I've been super obsessed with listening to Ariana Grande's live performances. Now, just a disclaimer and caveat, I think there have been some bad news and drama about her recently, but what I discuss in terms of her talent and her image, her appearance, and the way she thinks about herself, these all still hold true regardless of what shady things she's done. I don't even know the specifics of what she's done because I don't keep up with celebrity drama, like I've talked about in my video how to not put people on a pedestal and not to fangirl. I believe that we shouldn't care about celebrities' personal lives, which, side note, would actually also help you with our self-esteem. I still believe these people should still try to set a good example, because with great power comes great responsibility. But we must also do our part and understand that they're just humans. And speaking of how they are just human, while I was so allured by Ariana Grande's beautiful, beautiful voice, her talents, her charisma, I stumbled upon this other video that was about what happened to Ariana Grande in terms of her facial transformation throughout the years. The thumbnail was quite scary because one side was her beautiful past snatched face with the eyeliner, and now on the other side is kind of a more gaunt looking face, and I was like, oh my gosh, this beautiful girl, like, what happened to her? I think that celebrities are a big source of our insecurity sometimes, so I watched this video and it explained how Ariana Grande struggles so much with insecurities about herself that in a Get Ready With Me makeup video, she broke down in tears because she was like, makeup was just a mask for me to hide behind. And she's no doubt gotten several cosmetic procedures when before those procedures, she was still gorgeous. And it just really struck me that every single person no person is immune to feeling insecure. And celebrities may even be way more secure than you and me because of the number of eyes they have on them. And it really was crazy to me because one of the reasons I think I was able to not put so much emphasis on my appearance is that I really start to prioritize who we are inside, like what we can control, like how kind we are, how hardworking we are. And to me, Ariana Grande's main beauty is how talented and hardworking she is, and what I can see, at least from a consumer point of view. So the fact that she was going under the knife and crying about her appearance when she has all this great stuff within her was really eye-opening. I think it goes to show that if we are all going in a circle, being jealous of her, that girl is jealous of that person is insecure of this person, then what a waste that is. Because what is the point of every single person feeling insecure about themselves when we can just it sounds so easy, but just accept who we are, because it's futile anyway. I think the way I worded it sounded like I was minimizing how hard it is to really accept ourselves, but I wanted to illustrate how it's actually so simple if we think about it, where if everyone is feeling insecure because of everyone else, then what reason do we have to be insecure? You know, like, we have this one life where you're telling me that we're going to spend the rest of it wishing we were someone else, when at the exact same time other people are wishing they were other people, and even wishing they were you. It's just crazy, right? This conundrum that society has put us into, and one that we ourselves have created. I think if we are idle and we have a bit too much time on our hands, and if we're consuming too much content rather than creating things for ourselves, we can also place more emphasis on our appearance, because appearances are so prioritized on the internet, right? Like TikTok girls, apparently they just lip sync to a 2-second song and then they get so many views, right? So we have this warped perspective of what we should prioritize. But if we are out there living our own lives and creating things based on what we have inside, based on our own interests and passions, then we will appreciate that about ourselves and weigh it higher, place higher value on that than on our appearance. I just found it really sad that, like, for Ariana Grande, someone who has the voice of an angel, where I love singing, I would love to be able to hit high notes like her, that she is still placing so much emphasis on things that say nothing about her character. Again, kind of ironic that recently her character was in question, but I'm just talking about the appearance aspect of this. This reminded me of how also I recently watched the movie A Star is Born, where Lady Gaga played the main character, and she sang the whole movie live, like insane vocals. In one part of the movie, her main character said that she cannot become famous because of her nose, like it's too big. And I was like, wow, that's really how this industry works, right? Like, no matter how talented you are and you have something to say, these people will still look and judge your appearance to see if that can be part of the moneymaker, because sex sells and beauty sells. This is kind of the way the world works. It's, of course, visuals matter, because that's something that you can register in a split second. You can't just listen to someone's voice as quickly as you can see someone. This part of that movie reminded me of how insecure I was of my nose. How I would think about it so much even when I was so busy in school and doing all these other things. Like, it's so silly now that I think back to it, but in the moment that you are insecure about this thing, it consumes your whole life. Like, I would go to bed, before going to sleep, I would pinch my nose right here for like 30 seconds in like 3 rounds just to try and make this part thinner. And what's insane is that later, when I visited China, I realized that my nose bridge is a little higher than typical Asian faces. And actually, that's desirable. And I was like, what? Here I am being insecure about my nose being big when other people want my nose. So at the same time, if I want something that someone else has, they might also be insecure about that. we can really realize that beauty standards are so silly and subjective that why would we waste our efforts and our energy and the love we could give ourselves on things that are temporary, that are so arbitrary, right? Because you could, like me, be spending 2 years of your life being like pinching your nose and upset about it, and then the next day they're like, oh, your nose is the most perfect nose in the world, and you're like, wow, well, what a waste of those 2 years, right? It's always changing, just like with thinness and the BBL trend, right? Like, you never want to try and fit into these beauty standards, because the point of us being humans is that we're all different, and that's why we're amazing, right? Like, how boring would it be if every single person in that world fit a certain beauty standard at that time, and every single person fit the exact same standard of success? In fact, even if every single person fit that standard, I bet they would still be insecure. Every single case, no matter how beautiful you are, like a celebrity or that Instagram model, right? They're photoshopping, they're still insecure. We should take a step back and be like, if everyone is like this, what's the point? I think it's important to know that even celebrities are not necessarily 100% satisfied with how they look, because if they were, they wouldn't be continuing to do these own cosmetic procedures like Botox and also going under the knife. Because for me, up until like 6 months ago, I had no idea that all these celebrities had done plastic surgeries, and that was like a common given thing as a celebrity. For some reason, I thought that they were all just born under a lucky star, and that's why their God-given beauty has led them to be able to be famous. But no. You are absolutely beautiful. Not even saying in your own way. You are just beautiful, plain and simple, right? Because I think the chance of you existing is like 1 out of 400 trillion, something like that, where, like, you know, this is getting scientific. The sperm getting into the egg, it's like a 400 trillion chance, 1 out of 400 trillion. And wow, how insane is that? Like, you are a miracle. You are a miracle where all the features you have outside and inside are a miracle. This specific combination came to be, and it was an extremely tiny chance of you existing and having this combination. So let's love it. Let's enjoy it, because that's what we have anyway, right? Circling back a little to the Ariana Grande thing, I just thought it was incredibly sad that this girl, who I thought was beautiful, she was altering her appearance and kind of, in my mind, destroying this kind of beauty she had. Not only destroying the beauty per se, because she's still pretty, but just destroying who she is, you know, like that unique combination. I do think that there are valid instances where we can do some procedures. I have a personal story about this, actually, but that's for another video. It'll be too long. Let me know if that's something that interests you, and I will share my story in a future podcast episode. Keep using podcast episode and video interchangeably, but please understand you can use it as both. Visual listeners can see me do my weird hand motions, and just the auditory listeners can listen to my voice. Let's go a little deeper into my past and the kind of lesson I gained the hard way, which is why I don't want you to learn this the hard way. Caveat of this section is that actually it's a trigger warning, that's what it's called. There will be talk of body dysmorphia / disordered eating and other things that just might be a little triggering. So fair warning, if you are sensitive to this kind of talk, then you can skip to the end. I have always been a relatively slim kid up to and including high school. But even in high school, I was like, man, you know what? I'm gonna get abs. So I would do crunches and sit-ups every night before going to bed, and I think I did a good job, and I was pretty happy about how I prioritized health. When I went to Panda Express with my friends, I would get the broccoli and not the chow mein. Just some small examples of how I was thinking about health for my body before college. When I went to college, I was on the varsity basketball team where we would have 3-hour practices every day, tons of running. I also became sleep deprived because of how tough the workload was. So the first 10 weeks of my freshman year, I would eat whatever the heck I want because, wow, this is the first experience where it's just a buffet every single meal every day. And I was like, I'm practicing 3 hours a day, so this is fantastic. I'm going to eat that cookie ice cream sandwich at 12 a.m. in the morning in the dining hall. And it was great. But then when winter break hit and my mom came to visit, my parents, my whole family came to visit me because we were going to go on a road trip. She said, wow, Amy, 你壮了，脸圆了, which means you're bigger, your face is rounder. And I was like, oh no. If you can see this because you haven't seen me in 3 months, that means I really did change. This was one of the first instances where someone in real life commented on my body, and oh man, the impact that left, I think, was possibly multiple times throughout that trip. But I don't want to blame my mom at all because we're all the product of our upbringing and background, right? So Asian beauty standards are like very skinny, and also my mom was just saying an observation, right? Like maybe this is my current body and it should be bigger because I'm now in college. I'm not just a teenager anymore. Well, I'm still a teenager because I'm 18. But the point is, there's nothing wrong with getting bigger, right? If you're still healthy, that's fine. But it was maybe just because I always put this high standard and pressure on myself to be great in whatever aspect. And to me, great meant keeping my same frame that I was proud of, that I had prior to college. So this led to a whole host of like very calculated decisions of, okay, I'm going to make a game plan. How am I going to lose this weight? How am I going to be skinnier and get back to my old weight? For basketball games, away games, we would order food and we'd get sandwiches sometimes and wraps, and I would always ask for it to be wrapped in lettuce. And I would be avoiding carbs like it was the plague. For some reason, people always blame carbs, but especially as women, we need that to survive. I just didn't know that at the time. Maybe I did, but I didn't care. And so, especially as an athlete who does tons of cardio every day, I honestly don't know how I did that. But yeah, carbs was something I brutally cut out. Whenever there was dessert, I would save it and I would put it in the fridge so then I could eat it the next morning, because for some reason I thought the next morning meant that those calories were a little better, that if I ate at night, those would turn into fat, so I saved them for the morning. I cut my portion sizes significantly, and it was insane because I felt like all this effort was not enough. I was doing insane, extreme things, but it was still not enough because even though I got thinner, I felt like I was still never reaching my old weight. When in reality, I had actually already surpassed the thinness that I was before. But it didn't look like that to me in the mirror. That's so crazy, because now when I look back at those pictures, I'm like, wow, that was thin. And what's also crazy, I'm saying crazy a lot. My face being round had always been a source of insecurity, and so I thought that by losing weight, that means that the fat will kind of go away, evenly distributed throughout my body. But my face actually got rounder. My body became thinner and my face became rounder. I didn't see it at the time, but I know now. And that's also why I think that I did not believe I had actually made progress. It's because I was losing that weight unhealthily. So I don't understand the science or biology behind it, but when you lose weight unhealthily, it's not going to look natural. And I weigh like 20 pounds actually. No, 15. I weigh 15 pounds more than I did at that time. And my face is thinner than before. And I have a lot more fat around my whole body, but my face is slimmer than before. It was crazy. My sister told me the other day, Amy, I just saw your Caltech vlog from 2020, and man, your face was kind of fat, no offense. And I'm like, none taken. You're right. At the time, my weight on the scale would be continually dropping. I didn't weigh myself for a while, but when I did, I was like, dang, I lost 10 pounds. It wasn't a feeling of achievement. It was like, crap. I lost 10 pounds, but I don't see any difference. What happened? And I started speculating. I was like, oh, I must have lost bone density. But then throughout these few years of doing this, I lost my period for 6 months at a time, twice. Oh my gosh, this is so bad, but I was almost proud of it. I was like, oh, this is great. I don't have my period anymore. This is the inconvenience being gone is a byproduct of this. But that's terrible. That's a sign that your body is so unhealthy that it can not do its proper functions. About a year and a half after I went home, then my parents were like, oh my gosh, you're so thin. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I remember always making it a hard time for my mom to cook homemade meals that I loved. I was like, too much salt and sugar in this. No, I'm not going to eat this. Stop making this, not in those exact words, but it was really making it a tough time for my mom. And I think that's just an example of how much of our life we sacrifice socially, mentally, emotionally, when we focus on the things that aren't as important. That I was using this thing as a higher priority than all the other things, including my own health. So I was really shocked at how much less I weighed. How much less? That's not a right phrase, but you get the point. I loved to eat. I love food, and I love going to a buffet and just like shoving my stomach until it was too full. But I was afraid to eat too much because I felt that I had hurt my metabolism so much that now if I eat even close to what I ate before, that's all going to turn into fat. I just felt so stuck. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I know this is not healthy now, but if I eat more and try to be healthier, I'm going to be fat now. I was so, sorry for the language if that's triggering, but I just really thought that way. When you're so sucked into this spiral and you continually make this game plan for yourself of this time is going to be better. I'm going to eat at this time. I'm going to cut these portions in half. Always changing this set of rules that didn't have to exist in the first place for eating, when eating is just a normal part of keeping your life healthy. It really warps your mind because now everything you see in terms of food or how it's going to change your appearance. And you feel like when you're shopping, you can't buy this until you're a certain thinness, or you can buy this to motivate you to get thinner. That's such a toxic mindset. And I remember how in cooking class one time, there was chocolate cake and I was like, I'll just eat a little. And that night I just kept shoving it down and I could not stop because I was trying to fight biology, and I learned you cannot fight biology. You cannot go against nature. You have to work with nature. So this is just a lot of details that might seem like, oh, why are you telling me this many specifics? But I just want to add color to how severe this was, where we all have the potential to fall into this trap again, simply because of a comment or of thinking too much of all these influences and forces trying to make us do these things. And it also didn't help that when I did start gaining some weight back, that when I played tennis back home one day, a family friend came and was like, wow, Amy's thighs are bigger, huh? To my mom. Amy's thighs are like bigger than mine now. And this woman was like a head taller than me. So I'm like, thanks. I'm really trying to recover and make myself healthier, and you're here commenting that my thighs are bigger, where bigger is obviously used as a negative term. Anyway, I think that a lot of the recovery came from me being just so shocked at where I'd put my body, where previously the emphasis was on my health, and that's why I was slim and fit. Again, not saying you have to be slim and fit, but that was my standard that I had in my mind. And so I was like, oh man, I have to just try and live life again. And it was so slow. The process was incredibly gradual over like 2 years of the total 5 years since freshman year. And it was like every time I ate normally, there was like this nagging thought that's like trying to pull me back. And these patterns where when I go out to eat, I'm like, I'm not going to eat the rest of the day before that. Or I'm going to order this small thing, but I'm going to taste some of yours. I always had this tempting feeling to taste someone else's food. And I don't do that anymore, unless it looks really delicious, because, I love trying new things. But yeah, I think finally after 2 years of gradually, little by little, placing more things in importance, like wanting to go out with friends because it's fun with friends, not because of the food thing, then gradually I feel like I'm finally fully recovered. I think I fully recovered in like 2023. It's very, very hard to put a specific timeline on this because the healing is much slower and more gradual than the falling into this dark place. The purpose of sharing this story is to say that, hey, I think that from my other channel and from this channel so far, that I didn't really talk about these things where I was the bad guy. I was the bad guy to myself here. And that I want to show, just like, I don't want to say her name more times, but Ariana Grande. So just like her, I also struggle because you are just like her and you are just like me, and like we are all humans at the end of the day. So it's really possible for anyone to do things that you aren't proud of to yourself, and that's not necessarily your fault, but it's your responsibility to recognize that and to help yourself get to a better place, because these voices will be here no matter what. And it really took a reframing of my mind to be like, hey, I'm not gonna look at this girl anymore because she's skinny, but I'm instead gonna watch a video of this girl because I love what she says. I am going to admire this person not because of her thin figure, which could be genetic also, but I'm going to admire this person, admire this friend because of how kind they are and how considerate and how talented they are, these other things. And this kind of habit and reframing day after day will eventually build your mindset to be the one you want to have. And so that also led me to be like, hey, I'm actually great at tennis, or I'm actually great at, I don't know, what am I great at? I'm actually good at giving advice to my friends. I'm actually a fun person. I actually can be funny and goofy. And those are things I love about myself, where, if I am also pursuing something like recruiting for a job or applying to some school or trying to get straight A's or trying to help people on the internet, then that's way more important to spend my time and energy on, that I don't even have the time to think about how I look today. And that's kind of why I really like this podcast channel as well, because I don't have to feel the pressure of, putting on lots of makeup and like looking like whatever. I'm not gonna look like a slob, but I also don't have to place too much emphasis on the visuals, because what I realize now is the value I have inside. It's in my words, it's in my brain, it's in my experiences and the perspectives that I can share. Now I know that I have way more important things to care about. I go to the gym because it makes me feel strong. It makes me feel like a boss when I am doing that extra rep, when I am jamming out to that song. And what's also really great is the influence in the people I have around me now, because Sean, my fiance, he always encouraged me to work on my upper body when I was always scared to, because I didn't want to have bulky arms. But now I love my arms and shoulders. I love my back because of that encouragement that he says he likes strength and health. That's what's important. And the muscle you build is not a sign of beauty, but it's a sign of your hard work and the discipline that is behind that. So when I see that, I don't think, oh, that's pretty, I wish I looked like that. I'm like, is that something that I can control? Is that something that I can put hard work into? Or, if it's genetic, I know a lot of times like abs are also genetic for how much they show. What is more important? What can I control? What do I value more? And not only what do I value more, because when your mind is warped, you will value the wrong things, but what do I want to value? Many ideas and concepts are all linked together, as is probably evident in the topics I cover on this podcast, because when we care about what's inside and we don't put other people on a pedestal, we can have a much clearer mind and prioritize the things that actually make us happier and have a healthier life. If we realize that celebrities are also a tool used by companies and corporations, and products are also part of that, influencers are also part of that, then we don't have to listen to those voices. We can be like, oh, that's the bad guy, I'm gonna stay away from that, because companies want you to feel insecure. Just like I said earlier in this episode, companies saying, oh, we're not skinny enough, here's a new pill, here's a new diet tea, oh, you know what, here's this new dress with a super tight corset that will snatch you in, and it's okay if you can't eat in that dress and you can't breathe in it. Oh, look, light-skinned people should be tanner and colored people should be lighter. Like Asian people, our beauty standard is to be very white for some reason. Okay, sorry, not all Asian people, like Chinese at least. And Koreans and Japanese, I think a lot of East Asians want to be white because there are products that make your face whiter. And I'm like, I live in the US and we want to be tan, but I'm also an Asian by heritage. So which one? Neither. Just stay who you are. Just wear sunscreen and be healthy. Wear sunscreen, kids. At the end of the day, companies want you to feel insecure because they profit off your insecurity. They want your money, and the way for you to buy more things that you don't need is by believing you need it. Companies have marketing teams that study human psychology, but you can be one step ahead of them and be like, I know that you are putting this person in this ad because that'll make me feel like I need this to look like her. But you know what? I don't want to even look like her. I don't know what kind of value she has. I don't know what kind of skill she has. I don't know what kind of family and friends she has. I like my own. I like my own life. I get tempted all the time off of ads and influencers wearing things, and man, their style looks great. From a young age, I loved fashion. I would always want this new style they're having. Oh, this would make me look good too. Oh, I need this dress for this certain vacation. I still love shopping, don't get me wrong, but I think that I'm able to make it very moderate and healthy, and not very often, honestly, because I realized that there's always more. There's always more. Sometimes I would be like, I just want this shirt and that'll make my whole closet. Then I can wear it with this, this, this. But then this new dress comes along. I'm like, oh, I need that now. And that'll be the one missing piece and I won't need anything after that. But that's always a lie. There's always more. Just like no matter how many procedures you get and how much makeup and how much other things you do to try and make yourself more beautiful, it'll never be enough. Because if you look at people in the top, they are still insecure. So if there's always more, then just feel like it's enough. And when you buy things, let it make you happier and be like, oh, I love this dress because it's just so pretty. But it's not like I need it, I want it. You know, it's kind of like a mindset shift in that way, where now if I buy something, I'm not like, oh, this is gonna be the one. I try to think, am I gonna wear this in 5 years? And do I actually really like this? Or is this capitalism trying to influence me too much? As part of becoming more secure in yourself is to consider before getting something whether you're getting it because of some ulterior motive, or if you're doing something like going to the gym, is that because of some ulterior motive? And reframe it as, I want to go to the gym because I want to be healthy and fit and I want to feel strong. And reframe, I want to get this dress simply because I love it and it's pretty, not because that girl has it, or not because this will make me look thinner. Because while we think that those are just thoughts can be really toxic, as I've shared in my story. So that's why looking at buying things to make us feel better about ourselves and buying things in general, that's why I relate that to becoming more secure in ourselves. It's always about more ads, more content, more products. But our self-esteem is something only we can control. So no matter how many of those things you have, if you don't work on yourself, it's not going to be enough. Someone can have 10 makeup products on their face and someone can have 0. And those two people can have the same self-esteem. And that person with makeup can even have less self-esteem than the person with no makeup. This is just an example. I'm not saying, makeup is the epitome of like insecurity or anything. Makeup's great. It can emphasize your pretty features that you already have. When can we just be enough? When we realize that there's always going to be more no matter what, then what's the point of always reaching for more? In fact, we can think of it as the beauty of being limited. So you, like I said earlier, are a combination of so many different characteristics and elements visually and internally. So, cannot speak. We are limited. I can't be good at math and good at every single thing because our time is limited and our brains are also, limited to some extent. We cannot be an expert at everything. But the beauty is that we can choose then. We can choose what to prioritize and spend our time on, and then we can become the master at that. So just like with our limits in terms of our combination of characteristics, we want to choose what will benefit us, because in this limited lifetime, we want to try and optimize what's strongest about us, what certain advantages and skills and talents we have that we can continue using. And at the same time, when there's more and unlimited clothing options, unlimited things to tempt us, that we can choose what we care about and choose our style. And we feel secure about ourselves when we put our own judgment first. Just because this is a trend and now every single store is selling the same dress does not mean you have to buy it. I was tempted so many times by this one dress and I'm like, actually, I don't even really like that dress because I'm not this kind of dress person. I feel my best in these clothes instead. This relates to your body image and the other ways that you see yourself, because when you put your judgment first, then you realize that you are the most important person that needs to like who you are. Because I know that I felt insecure because I was very worried about what other people thought of me. I was worried that they would see me as bigger than before. I was worried that they would be thinking that my face is rounder than before. But all that matters at the end of the day is how I think of myself and how I know that I'm healthy and happy. For example, during my recovery, when that family friend made that comment about my thighs being bigger, I was brought down a little bit by that, but not nearly as much as I would have in the height of my disorder, because at that point I was already trying to put more emphasis on what I believed and what I think of myself. So when she said that my thighs were bigger, the initial reaction was like a pang of insecurity again, but then I was able to bring me back to like, hey, I'm actually healthier. I love my thighs. They're strong. They're letting me play tennis literally right this second. And I don't care what you say. Have pride in yourself. Have bias toward yourself. You know how parents are biased toward their kids? Like, oh, my kid must be the best one here in the class. Or, oh, they're good at football simply because they're my kid. Well, in real life, we also have biases towards certain things, but I feel like very rarely is that toward ourselves. But we should kind of have that attitude toward ourselves. Like, I love my nose and I think it's fantastic simply because it's mine. Have that attitude. Like, your whatever it is, your XYZ is great simply because it's yours. That would be another tip for increasing your self-esteem, would be, I think from my experience, is to not only put emphasis on how I think of my appearance, but also believe in my good taste. That if I like this shirt, I like it and I want it because I like it, and that's all that matters. That kind of sounded circular, but the point is, have JOMO, the joy of missing out. Have joy in missing out on the things that you actually don't care about that much. You need to be so strong in your convictions and who you are that people's judgments just fade away. Because if they're judging you harshly, you need to remember that they are insecure. Because insecure people make other people insecure. Then you have no need to listen to them. If you're a secure person, you will compliment other people genuinely. This is another tip where I used to be very shy because I'd be afraid of the way my own voice sounds. But now I see a stranger on the street or waiting in line and I'm like, dang, I love your dress. And I'm so happy to share that, because confident people make other people feel confident and great about themselves. As another example, that is for the visual listeners out here. This bralette I actually had since high school, and this top I've had for like 5 years now. You know, I wear it because it still looks great. So many things we see on social media now is like, oh, new. Oh, look at this new dress I got. Look at this haul I have. But I'm like, you know what? Let's brag about how long we've had certain clothes because you like them and they still look good. And it's better for the environment too. So see, these are all, again, values that you place more emphasis upon rather than the pressure from other people, rather than the pressure from companies to buy new things to look prettier, rather than the companies of, just spending money on things that are profiting off of your insecurities. The bulk of this discussion was sharing my story of how I had insecurities that honestly led me back to square one of just being my own happy and healthy self again. But actually, I would say that I got farther than square one, because in a way I had to have that lesson to be able to cherish and appreciate my body for how it is now, because now it is so strong. I believe that the hard work I put in the gym and then how I'm eating, it's all making myself happier and healthier. I also eat ice cream and stuff, and it's so brilliant to enjoy ice cream. It's so fun to live this way. So when I talk about maximizing and optimizing your life, it's not about working hard and grinding all the time, because I think that, pulling all-nighters or sacrificing your sleep, like, that's the crazy stuff. What we want to do is think about how to make our one life the best one it can be. I talk about the impact of social media a lot, so thank you for clicking on this video and for listening to me. I don't consider YouTube social media because of how I grew up watching people who are just making videos for entertainment. It's not just to show off like on Instagram or like TikTok. I don't know, YouTube's just a little different, long form at least. While it's hard to delete social media completely, even though I recommend it, to help with feelings of inadequacy, I would recommend this other tip where you can follow people who give you value, who make you feel better about yourself. Don't choose to have people on your feed that make you feel like crap, you know? Follow people who look like you, who have the same interests as you, who make you feel excited to live and go do what you're good at. I found that comparison is truly inevitable. Zero comparison, I don't believe is possible. Because as much as I think I'm confident now, when I go online and I'm searching for something and I see this, again, girl, like I said at the beginning, then I'm like, wow, she looks great. And I'm subconsciously comparing myself a little. Even though I tell myself I should only see people as inspiration, but it's very inevitable. Thus, we should take actions to mitigate that before it happens. And also, change your idea of a beauty standard. Beauty standard, you can write it on your wall or something. My beauty standard is being a happy, healthy, and good person. That's what we should strive for. And it sounds so simple, I know. Again, if you're struggling like I was struggling in that mental space, it's a lot easier said than done. I think the things I talked about were something that I really need to hear. So thank you for listening, and also thank you for the love on my video about how to make yourself want to study, because my story of my grandparents and my father reached so many people, which I was so happy about. Like, you think so deeply about these things and you resonate, and I think that's so amazing. I think that's the amazing thing about the internet and the good parts, because it can connect me with people who I would have never met or known otherwise, and I just don't feel so alone in the way I think. So thank you for resonating with that message. And I want to emphasize that when I'm making these podcast episodes, it's not like I'm a preacher and like I'm lecturing at you. I think of it more as kind of a video diary of, you know, if I could give this to my old self, this is what I would do. I'm my old self's big sister, and I can be talking to you kind of just like a friend and as a sister. So when you judge my words, I am not the most eloquent, and sometimes I fumble, and the outline is not super stick straight, like 1, 2, 3 tips. So when you judge, so when you view these videos and listen to my words, just remember that I'm a real person at the end of the day, that I'm just a human, a friend, trying to give some helpful perspective. Each of these podcast episodes takes me about an hour to film, and days and months, even years of thought put into them, all accumulating into one discussion. So that's why I really appreciate how much you're engaging, liking, sharing, commenting. I read every single comment, even though I might not heart it. Sometimes I don't heart it because I want to remember that I want to read it and reply to it, but then I don't have the time to, so please forgive me. But I honestly read every single one of your comments, and I take all of them into, I take them all deeply. I don't take your comments lightly. Thank you very much for your time and for your support, honestly, and for taking the time to listen to me ramble, listening to me and wanting to make your best life. Thanks so much, and I hope you all a wonderful, happy, healthy day. Bye.